And welcome back to Prof E Plays. I just forgot. I'm Prof E. Oh gosh. And I'm apparently a bit forgetful at the moment. In any case, we are back with playing Cepheus Universal. Uh, and so where we are right now, we are in the midst of a one-shot adventure. And it's not maybe a traditional one-shot in that it's multiple episodes, right? Because I like to keep them short. In any case, so at this point, we have our party of three. That is Jeannie, who is formerly in effect in law enforcement. We have Lionel, who what exactly his job was in the past, we really don't know. Maybe he didn't ever actually have a proper job, but we do know is that he has kind of this smattering of abilities, including things like computers and medical. So he's kind of our medic slash hacker. And then we also have, of course, Vince, who is our pilot navigator, former spacer. So, what is happening at this point is that the three of them are on the planet of Lanor in Lanor City in the capital, and they know that there's an assassination attempt that is going to be planned that is going to be coming up sometime on Friday. Current timeline, we are Monday, 8 p.m. So they have a little bit of time still to try to get this prevented. Now, the person that is going to be assassinated is the head of a charity here on this planet. It is an interstellar charity with lots of connections all around, and it is a significant source of hope for the people here who are, in many ways, being used by crime syndicates and the like. Not a great situation, but hey, at least there's this source of hope. What we have discovered so far is that it seems that this leader has, in fact, been skimming a bit from the donations that they receive, right? So there are some questions about their motivations. At the same time, we have also learned kind of where the assassination attempt is likely going to take place. That is City Hall, which is where this leader, her name is Amy Haney, is going to be that particular day, right? So last time, right, we managed to figure out that the security is a little bit lax in City Hall once you get past the front door, and then we also figured out that we were not going to be able to just bribe our way in to the Sons of Okshani, whatever. Okshani, sure, we'll just go with that. And we're not going to bribe our way in there to get more information that way. We're going to have to get more information some other way. At this point, I'm not really positive what the next step would be. So obviously, we need to get more information. So we had before, right, tried to kind of bribe our way in because bribery is something that, oddly enough, our spacer friend Vince has some um, experience with in the past. This was something that happened after he left the spacers, I suspect, or maybe not. I really don't know. In any case, Uh, bribery is not going to work. So right now we're at 8 p.m. Monday. It would not be a bad time for them to try a little bit of, breaking and entering, sneaking in, these types of things. Problem is that none of them have any kind of burglary abilities. I guess the one who gets closest would be um, Genie, right, who has some investigation ability, but that really is much more about like investigating a crime scene and coming to reasonable conclusions given evidence using scientific apparatus and the like for doing scientific research. Right? So these types of things. Now, I used a little bit as kind of a sense of general sense of security last time, but I think it would be a big stretch to say breaking and entering to get more information follows from investigate. So I'm not going to do that. Uh, so we would need to use a different skill if that is the path we want to take. Now there is another option which I'm thinking about now, and that is carousing, right? So that is picking up rumors and the like. Possibly, maybe. Okay, I could see this working. So here's what I'm thinking for my expected scene: is that we know that one of our characters, I believe it's Lionel, double checking this. Lionel, I believe, has some ability here in regarding, yes, has a level of carousing. So that would allow them perhaps to go pick up on some rumors or something like that if we went to say, a bar in the area around the where we know the Sons of Akshani are located. So I think maybe that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to go into a cantina or something along these lines to see if we can get some information. All right. So that is the plan for what our expected scene is. So let me get that jotted down. So expected scene, carousing for info. However, we know that, according to the gemulator, that expected scene may not in fact be what happens. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out here our scene transition roll. Now we know in our last scene we were not successful. So whatever I roll here, I add 10 to. What is with me in dropping that? Right, so let's see. Oh. Well, I rolled an 87. Plus 10 is a 97. A 97 would be a random event. And so there's some kind of random event that happens. I should probably roll a focus here. So the random event involves 57, a player character. Well, of course, because okay, well, I suppose it's true that a random event sometimes involves, um, it can kind of happen in some sense off screen, but we're not going to do that. We're going to do a random event involving one of our player characters. So here's what I'm going to do. Last time I tried rolling on the random event table using what really they use for the campaign events. I after thinking about it, I realized I didn't love how that turned out. So instead of using that for inspiration, I'm going to go to Cepheus Universal. They have a number of encounter tables, so I'm going to use one of those instead. So here it's the world encounter table. So I'm going to roll my, it's a D66 table, so you read each die separately. I'm going to do numeral then spots. Okay, that gives me 1, 2, or 12. So here is our world encounter. It's a renowned restaurant. All right. Right. So something about this renowned restaurant, we get sidetracked as far as that goes. Although at the same time, this random event. Oh, okay. I think this makes sense. So what we were actually trying to do, right, was get into like a canteen or something. We've got friends in low places, kind of a dive was what we were going for. Uh, but that is not where we ended up. Right. So I'm thinking that we kind of asked around for, hey, where could we go that we might be able to you know, what's a good place to go and get some food, drinks, that kind of thing in the area around where the warehouse is that serves as the hideout for this group. And apparently, whoever was giving us this information, or the concierge of sorts, um, misunderstood our goal. We're not aiming for a dive, but thought we were aiming for a much more fancy place. So we ended up in a fancy restaurant. So, so So then we need to flesh this out. So scene transition here was a random event, renowned restaurant, which that answers the question for the location. So location of this restaurant. Now we're still in the right area, so we might possibly get lucky here because I had mentioned before that the Sons of Akshai are kind of a traditional mob, right, sort of organization. So it's very possible that this might possibly be run by them or something like that. So we might possibly get lucky. So I think our goal is the same in that we still want to figure out, can we get some rumors about what is happening in terms of this assassination? Now that's going to be kind of hard to do, certainly. So I think that's going to be reflected in the die roll. In the difficulty modifier. But I think that the goal is the same. So we're still trying to gather information about the assassination plans. Okay. Right, so we come in. We are obviously underdressed for this occasion because this was not what we were planning to do. Uh, but I think that, I mean, true to many restaurants, there is kind of still a bar area, even if it's a bit more upper crust than what was expected. Right, so I think we will spend at least a little bit of time there and let Lionel do his thing in terms of carousing. Okay. Now, a little bit about Lionel himself. Trying to remember. Okay, so his social standing score is a 7, right? Which means, in terms of people's reaction to him, people are going to see him as kind of neutral. He isn't as pathetic as, say, Vince would be, right? And actually, I think that Jeannie is very similar. Oh no, Jeannie is fairly high social, right? So it has a fairly high social standing score. So I would interpret that as being that she tends to be somewhat more poised. Looks like she actually belongs here, even if her dress isn't quite right. Right, so even though she's not very good at talking to people and gathering this information in terms of the carousing skill, nonetheless, I think her presence there is at least somewhat helpful. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make the carousing roll as Lionel is trying to kind of work the crowd, so to speak, and we'll see what happens. So remember, the target number here is always an 8, right? You just add modifiers because this is a skill roll based on carousing. So I'm going to roll my 2d6. Now, I think here, because of the difficulty involved, I'm going to put a -2 on this roll. It's -2 plus 1, so net -1. So I'm going to roll this here. It needs to be a total of 8 or higher once I subtract 1 off of it. It is not. I rolled a 7, which would be adjusted down to a 6. So that means we didn't really manage to get any kind of good information like what we would actually need to get. So I think then, so the question is then, so he's carousing, so odds are he's going to get some information, even if it's not particularly useful. So that's a question that I'm going to pose right to the Oracle. I think it is likely that he gathers some information. It's just probably not directly relevant, right? But I'm just curious, even if only for color purposes, right? So let's go ahead and roll here. So probability, I think it is very likely he did manage to gather some other information. So I'm going to roll on that. Very likely I rolled a 69, which is simply a normal yes. Yes, we did manage to catch some other rumor, perhaps. So let's find out what that rumor is about. So I have here, there's a rumor table somewhere. Just need to locate where it is. Okay, not in that section. I know that there was a rumor table in here. All right, need to look a little bit more here. Oh, that's where it was, I think. Well, I'll double check that. So I think it's in the running the game section, around 373 or so. If not, I don't know. I may possibly just have to use the general. Oh, there it is. Creating rumors. Awesome. Okay. It was in there somewhere. Okay. All right. So, for some guidance on type of rumor, let's go ahead and roll a d6, which gives me a 1. So it's a location mystery, right? So, that's a good question. So I guess, okay, so it's a location mystery. So what's something that could be about a location? I guess first question would be, is it one of the locations that we already know a little bit about? So we've got City Hall, and look at my locations table. With City Hall, we have the HQ, right, for the servants of Des, and we have the hideout as well, right? So it could possibly be one of these things. I think that we also need to add in here, right, the hotel that we're staying at as a location. And now there's a renowned restaurant. I kind of want to give it a name. So what is this restaurant? Okay, I'm just going to pull out a name here, Laverne's. Okay, so it's Laverne's restaurant. So the question is this about one of the places that we have already been to, or at least are somewhat aware of? So let's go ahead and roll that on the Oracle. I'm going to say it's unknown. So I got a 78, which would certainly be on the positive side. In fact, it's just a plain yes. Okay, so plain yes. So yes. So this is, in fact, about one of the locations we already have. So I'll just roll a d6. I have 5 locations. I'm going to go ahead and roll this. It's location number 3. So it's something about City Hall. right? So we didn't get to learn anything more about uh, the the assassination plan, which I mean, people aren't going to be openly talking about that, so it's not particularly surprising that didn't work. That's why it was difficult. But we are learning a little bit more about City Hall. So what are we learning about City Hall? Well, let's find out. So I'm going to go ahead and roll here. 60, clearly 56, carve, clearly carve murder. Hmm, clearly carve. Carve is a weird word there. But I think maybe I think that some like things like this have happened in the past. That is to say, it's actually not unusual. At least there are reported instances of these types of things happening, of people being right murdered in City Hall. Now, when I say clearly, no, clearly, okay, like, this is something that has obviously happened. So it's not like, well, we think there might possibly be people go into City Hall and never come out or something like that. No, I think it is much more like it's obvious this is something that does happen here, right, which means then, right, that the lack of security suggests a level of incompetence as far as that goes, which I think that's an important thing for us to know. Okay, let me just cover my hands so you can't hear what I'm saying. Right, so we were trying to gather information about the assassination plan. We gathered instead some other information. So I'm going to say we learned that murders just happen in City Hall historically. Okay, so that does suggest, as I said, a level of incompetence amongst the peacekeepers here that provide law enforcement, as well as just like the people designing this space, right? That like it was noticeable to somebody who had previously been involved in law enforcement that this is not a very secure space once you're inside. And so I think that that is interesting information that's good for us to have. It's not the information we needed, though. Uh, Nonetheless, this is something that may change things later on. So, would we say that we were successful in meeting our scene goal? Remember, the scene goal is to gather information about the assassination plan. I don't think we did that, so I'm going to go ahead and mark that as failure, and we will call the session there. Right, so I'm thinking a little bit about what I want to do next time. So I think that we have been, you know, I think we're going to have to try to break in. Oh, wait, how many hours did that take us? One. Okay, so it's 9 p.m. at this point on Monday. I think, honestly, I think we're going to have to do a nighttime break-in at the hideout. This is going to be pretty risky, but I think that might be the expected scene for next time. So I'm just going to mark that down just so I don't forget, because that's very possible. So break in to the Sons of Okshani um, hideout. Right. So that is our plan. Uh, but we'll see if that's what happens. You never know. We'll have to find out next time here on Prof E Plays. For now, this is Prof E signing off.